Hey everyone, it's Kai
and Lafayette, and this is
The Theory of Living. Thanks for tuning in. We're able to bring you this episode thanks to our Patreon members.
Patreon is a subscription-based platform where people can provide support for content creators like us.
Thanks to our Patreon members and supporters, we're able to provide free content on the podcast and weekly episodes.
By being a Patreon member, you'll have access to our entire podcast library, full video and audio episodes, along with much more.
If you like this episode and you feel it adds value to your life,
or you hate it,
please subscribe on Patreon and or leave your review on Apple Podcast.
And don't forget to mention it to your friends over your next beer. Truly, thank you again, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. We're back. Guess who's back?
Who's back?
Okay.
You? Or us? Well, we're back.
Today we have a very exciting guest for you.
Mm-hmm.
You probably can't see him because you're not in the studio with us, but he speaks Korean, and he's known multiple. But today we're going to be talking about travel.
Yes. So I'd like to start with a quote. Charlemagne, the great, Charles the Great, famously said that to have another language is to possess a second soul. And, this is a tribute to the fact that our ideas are bound by language. But also this expansion of cognitive capacity is also attributed to the fact that learning a new language is to immerse oneself in new culture, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's why he said it. And then, I speak Korean. I grew up in Korea as well.
You speak Korean? I don't believe you.
I do.
Okay, well, for the listeners out there that know, 안녕하세요 is the formal hello. Could you lay a little more Korean on us? Just so we believe you.
Yeah, sure.
Fact check us.
What should I say?
Say the quote in Korean. Basically, loosely translate the quote.
Oh, okay. 찰리메이는 이런 말을 했어요. 다른 언어를 한다는 것은 두 번째의 영혼을 갖는 것과 같다.
Oh man, I wish I could repeat that back. I can't. Somebody fact check that out there. For all our Korean listeners out there.
There was a spontaneous translation, but I think it was good. But anyway. I can really attest to that quote. I really understand what it means, Because you really can't separate culture and language. It's just not possible, right?
So would you say, with your experience having traveled, obviously you've moved to the U.S., you've been here for over 10 years now, and you obviously have a very different experience with travel and language, because a lot of people in Korea can read English to some degree, it's taught.
Yeah, absolutely.
So would you say, though, your experience and understanding of English and the language and the cultural elements is greater because of the travel? Do you think you have a more comprehensive understanding? I know the answer is yes, but
absolutely.
How much differently do you think it is versus somebody who lives in Korea and can speak it, but only lived in Korea?
Day and night. Completely different thing. Yeah, it's not even remotely close to what it is. Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about this more in depth later, but we've talked about this so many times, even outside of this subject, which is, there's massive difference between knowing it and experience it, right? I think it really aligns with that same context here, that yes, I learned English in Korea. I read a lot. I even watching TV, movies, and listening to music. All those are ways of experiencing culture, right? But it is indirect experience, and there's a limit to it. Because when I say experience it, it's more than, perceive it and then process it. It's actually interacting with the elements of the culture directly, firsthand. I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I think in today's age, when we think of travel, we kind of summarize it in going to a beautiful place and maybe taking pictures there and recording some type of facet of our life in that environment. And we don't really take into account the cultural aspect and the requirement to actually travel, to get the full benefit of travel, you have to be adventurous.
Yes.
And what does an adventurer does? He explores. He takes action. You have to be engaged.
Yes.
So in today's age, not to say everybody's victim to this, but I think we have a gross misrepresentation of what travel is. And when we hear quotes about travel, we also falsely conflate the idea of current day travel.
Yeah.
Travel meant something so much differently in the past for so many people because there wasn't an effective way to document it via pictures.
Right.
And then again, a lot of people didn't write necessarily, or if they did, it was a more personalized, stylistic journal type way.
Yeah.
And they were forced to engage with the culture. You didn't have Google Translate. You didn't have websites you could pull up.
Yeah.
You had to go and talk to somebody, potentially somebody who didn't understand you, speak your language, and try to suss out the information you needed and build relationships out of that. And so you got a very different experience of travel.
Absolutely.
It's not your Instagram, Facebook, social media representation of being somewhere. It's actually being with the people, understanding. And then again, like you were saying, our language is bound by these concepts. And the culture uses language to relate ideas and concepts to the culture, and they play off each other. So just like you're saying, it's critical to engage into the culture to actually get the experience of travel. Because traveling in of itself, by definition, is just going from one place to another.
Yeah. So, I think two things I'd like to comment on your perspective. One, I agree with you that because of our technology and use of other convenient methods, it really robs our experience, in interacting with locals and interacting with the cultural elements, right? Because even small thing like, how do I get to that place from here? Like a long time ago, you would have to talk to the person there, locals, to find out the way, but now you don't really have to. So it completely eliminates the interaction with people there, right?
Yes.
So in a way, that comes with a convenience too, right? Because it's a lot more convenient or a lot more effective to find a way with your Google Maps, whatever. But it really eliminates the interaction part that we can potentially have with locals there. So I guess there's a loss, but there's a gain as well. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you're still at a better position than somebody who does not travel because
absolutely.
By the nature of the traveling, you're going to be forced to be put in a situation where you have to engage with the culture, and then you're going to be forced to either try to bend and learn to adopt certain aspects of that culture in order to have enjoyment in it.
Right.
Or you're just going to have a negative experience and never go travel again.
Yeah, true. Very true. And also, we're talking about this limitation of a cultural experience with language. Like, I have a great example. So there's a Chinese letter. It's called the Hyo.
Hyo?
What it is that, by the way, the word, it doesn't exist in English, by the way. You can translate, you can explain it, you can describe the concept of the word, but the word itself doesn't exist. But Hyo is virtue of children who that takes care of their parents well. That's what it means, the word itself. But the word is a combination of two different letters in Chinese. There is a one word that goes to the top of the word. It means old person or elderly. And the bottom of the word is a child. So basically, an old person on top of child, meaning that the child, the younger, takes care of the older. Right? So
okay.
That's the combination of two words that defines what child should do as as an offspring to their parents. But that word again doesn't exist in English, right?
Interesting.
So you can learn the concept of that word obviously by reading it or hearing from someone like me. But if you would talk to someone who really live their lives with that concept, in mind throughout their lives, you will have just completely different experience or description of the word through their lives, right? That's completely different things.
That's very interesting because that also pertains, at least in Japanese culture in regards to the number. The greater number is on top. So for the Japanese company I worked for, the machine for the films. So this is a part of the machine that receives basically the material that's going to be used. It's films 1 on the bottom, films 2 on top.
Right.
So it seems similar conceptually, at least to this. And when you can see that and understand it conceptually, all the other things in that culture, you can probably derive a specific meaning from of importance.
Yeah.
Or what the lower one does to the higher one, hierarchically. So without that, you would just you would just think, oh, they just write it that way. It doesn't necessarily have a meaning behind it. But in specific circumstances like this one, it's a very strong meaning.
Yeah, it's right, true. And then, you just, speaking of Japanese culture, because we've experienced that in many different ways, that if you look at their machines, especially the semiconductor equipment, they're, one of the best in the world, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's very meticulous, very precise in terms of, they still make errors just like any other machines, but comparably speaking, it's way more complex, way more precise, and easier to maintain. All of that, right? But you really see that crucially exists across the board. Like when I was in Japan, for example, I had never seen anything like that. I was going down on an escalator to get a subway, and the cleaning people were cleaning the handrail of the escalator. Wow. I had never seen anything like that in my whole life.
Wow, as it's being actively used.
Yes. This was before COVID, by the way. So I was like, wow. And then another thing, the trains and subway, they were like on time, like on schedule, on the dot, like mostly, like just few seconds difference, but mostly they operate according to the schedule.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, some may say that, shouldn't that be the case anywhere? But it's not.
It's definitely not. If you've gone to and lived in a lot of different places.
So like I could experience that meticulous aspects of the culture from different elements of the culture. I had known about it, I had experienced about it, but also experiencing it in different ways was really refreshing, experience.
Yeah, you can have a deeper sense of appreciation for those ideals and those ethics. And again, that's because that culture has arranged their value system in such a way that they value specific things greater than others. Yeah. Which is why you have that attention to detail, the precision.
Yes.
Being very anal about punctuality and all these other elements. But that's because they came from a historical place, and that's what survived over time and was passed down for many generations. And once you get, I think this is a wonderful thing. Once you engage with that experience and that culture, you can adapt some of those values. You have now new stimuli to understand the world can be rearranged in a different way and still be functional and better in some ways and maybe worse in other ways. But you're now exposed to something completely new, and it kind of really erodes your ideals and your ideas about the way the world should be. Yeah. Rather than you start seeing the world as it should be, you see how it can be. And I think there's a great value in that, because you can take home a lot of this stuff and incorporate in your life, in your community, and affect the culture in the place you live. Yeah. And that's just a very empowering thing. Yeah. Because I think oftentimes we don't even realize there's different ways the world can be. But because we grew up in one place, we haven't been anywhere, and we've only been exposed to so much media or specific types of media, which are just, depictions of reality cut up in a specific way. We're trapped in this box and think the world is one way when it's so many different ways. Like, could you imagine if we thought there was only one flower? Yeah. It would be crazy. That would be preposterous to even think about.
I said yes, I can imagine.
Oh, you can imagine? Okay, well, he can imagine.
I'm just kidding.
But a lot of people, for better or worse in some situations, truly think the culture and time period they live in is the only way and the best way, just by nature being the only way. Right. And there's a great quote attributed to St. Augustine, who said, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel have only read one page."
Yeah. Wow. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Right there, that alone should maybe cue into, your perception or what you think you have figured out, if you have it all figured out. There's a lot to be said about travel. And oftentimes I feel it's unfortunate that it's been capitalized on for the social status and credit, because if you go travel and nothing changes with your views, the way you interface with life, that would be very unfortunate, because it's one of the few times in your life where you're actually going to have everything challenge, and you can really think about things critically and differently, and there can be so much joy. And like we talked about, even this is just a non-ideal representation of what the experience will bring you. Because it's so multifaceted. I mean, the smells are different, the sounds are different. Everything is just so different. And it's such an exciting thing to see. Or it might be it can be extremely difficult too. Because you're forced to deal with the realization that again, maybe the way you thought things are not the best way, or you have to just kind of come to terms with that.
Right. Yeah, I think in a way that experience is powerful, is that because we engage all the senses, right? It's more than when you read about other culture, read about traveling. Oh, it's awesome because, even though you're not there, through words, which is, by basically your vision, you take in all the words, and then you can't, stimulate the imaginative part of your brain. And, that alone can be great, don't get me wrong, but when you're actually there, right, experiencing firsthand, like you use all the senses. Right? That's why it is so memorable, so impactful when you're there. I'm not saying that traveling is, the solution for everything, or everybody should. I mean, there are a lot of arguments actually against traveling too. I mean, against the idea that you have to be there and experience it firsthand to get the benefits of traveling, right? Expanding your, horizons. I mean, that's the most common expressions used, all that. But there are arguments against it too. I think one of the famous ones was Roosevelt.
Roosevelt?
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with what did he say.
I forgot exactly, but we know there are great thinkers who have never traveled before.
Oh, yeah.
So we know it can be done. Like,
sure.
The requirements for deep and meaningful thoughts, traveling doesn't have to be there. I guess that's what I'm saying.
Sure.
It's not a mandatory, or it's not prerequisite for it. But that doesn't mean that traveling is bad or the benefits are not real.
Sure.
Right?
I would say, though, those great philosophers who did not travel in older time periods.
You think they could have done better?
Yes. Here's the only thing, though, because time has changed the ability to travel for the world drastically. So the accessibility of traveling now is greater than it's ever been. It's almost, I know it's not a one-to-one comparison, but nowadays, if you live in a country like the U.S. And you have means to make money, save money, and actually go and do these things, it's as accessible as reading a book is. It really is. If you're willing to put effort into it. And I think a lot of these philosophers would have, again, traveled in that regard with the accessibility being what it is now. And a lot of philosophers did travel as well, ones that had money, right? So again, a lot of the philosophers, depending on what generational,
and the convenience as well, right? I mean, back
course.
then it was not like they could fly, right?
Yeah, so, exactly. And they also may not have realized the vast complexness of life because they weren't exposed to it. They got their information, their representation of reality, not only through the ideas and what they thought, but through the reality they engaged with.
Right.
So we're offered such a unique opportunity to engage with a very different slice of reality than anybody who's before us has. And the ideas that will come from it potentially can be different. They can be great. I'm not saying necessarily greater, worse, but different. And that alone is exciting. You could have an idea that somebody else is, maybe never packaged in that way, or an idea that's never been thought before. Maybe unlikely, but, I think worthy of investigation. And I like what you said about traveling with all your senses, because it reminds me of a quote from Confucius, who said, wherever you go with all your heart. I think that's the biggest one.
Yeah.
And I know trying to define the heart is very difficult.
Yeah.
So when I say that, I hope
Right.
I hope it can speak in a way that's understandable with your heart. Intention, openness,
determination,
care. Yeah,
purpose,
a lot of these
meaning.
Yeah, these positive attributes. That's what we want to have when we go to these places.
Yeah.
And I think that's just wonderful.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, it's just, I think, more awesome knowing that he lived over 2,000 years ago, right?
It's still applicable today.
Yeah. I mean, even back then, imagine how hard it was to make a trip, right?
Yeah. I mean, even going back to Heraclitus, he said, those who wish to know about the world must learn about it in its particular details. That alone, particular details, unique, anecdotal.
Yeah.
These are the type of details he's referring to.
Yeah.
You can have a statistical and a quantitative view of the world. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we can find mathematical data to suggest specific things about the world.
Yeah.
But that doesn't even come close to capturing what the world actually is. And that's why, a lot of people are dismissive of anecdotal data.
Yeah.
But isn't that what kind of propels us to keep living life, to want to live?
Yeah.
The feeling of experience, the way we interface with the quantitative.
Yeah.
More so than just the quantitative in and of itself.
Yeah.
Denied of emotion and all its complexity.
Yeah.
I just want to engage with that world.
Yeah. I think, the great thing about traveling is that when we talk about life, we typically talk about two things, like in a broad way. One is meaning or purpose, and the other one is happiness. Like, people sometimes debate which one's more important, which one you should, go after, right? Certainly, you and I agree that happiness is not most fundamental part of life, or because happiness can come in a shallow way too. That's why, right? I mean, it doesn't really require meaning or purpose to be happy. But anyway, I'm not really going into that direction of discussion. But the great thing about traveling is that it catches both, right?
Yeah.
And that's why traveling is so awesome, so exciting.
It's two birds with one stone.
Yeah. I mean, you can create, whether or not, there are so many different ways of traveling that can be related to, meaning or purpose of life. But certainly it can impact your perspective. And in that sense, also related to, meaning or purpose of your life.
Yeah.
In a sort of indirect way. I mean, there could be dramatic events that can directly impact your purpose of your life, for sure. That can happen, but that's unlikely, right? But at least it can impact your impact on your perspective and ideas, and views, and things like that. So I would argue that it is at least indirectly related to how you can form or modify or adjust your purpose.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. Yeah. And I would say, I would argue travel is a necessity to live a good life. And again, you don't necessarily have to travel thousands of miles to get this experience culturally.
Yeah.
You can travel regionally to such vastly different areas.
Yeah.
Even within the U.S., there are subsects of different people and groups of people and ideologies. I mean, you go to the South, you go to the Northeast, West Coast. There's so many different things here.
Absolutely.
And the cool thing is, because we live in the U.S. with a diverse melting pot of people, you can just go to a different community.
Absolutely.
Go to the local, China Mart and things like that, the districts.
Yeah.
There's tons of different cultures and people that still celebrate their heritage today. And you can really catch and grab a glimpse of that without leaving far from home. And that might propel you to be like, oh shit, man, I want to go see actual Spain, or I want to go to Korea. I really enjoy aspects of this culture. I want to go there and be a part of it, and you might find community in different cultures because they have different value systems, things that you would have maybe never imagined.
That's this week's short version of the episode of the Theory of Living podcast. Thank Thanks for listening with us. We're Lafayette and Kai. Don't forget to join us next week for another episode.
And if you'd like to help support us, we have a Patreon page where you can subscribe for exclusive content, early access, and full versions of the podcast.
Also, please share it with others who you think may find value in our discussion.
Leave a rating, a review, and please subscribe.
Thank you again.
See you next time.